But yeah, tomorrow we're planning on the afternoon working on things, and that'll probably be most of like what gets done. That's good.
Are you dark there? No, what's your Discord? I would say regular. Oh, remotely competent, yeah.
No, that's right. Okay, whatever.
You guys from here ads.
So I think we're streaming now. And
Give me 1 second. I need to edit some dimensions.
I forgot. Computer, I have ISU plus
L. That's hard to get to.
okay, so welcome. This is an intro meeting for the ISU CDC2 from HACK, otherwise known as the Hacking and Cybersecurity Club's presentation on Iowa State University Cyber Defense Competition Part 2. So where to start? There are a couple of really important links. If you look at the presentation that I sent in the Discord, you can already see all of these links. First up is sign up, going to be the first place you go. It's where you can sign up and then subsequently join a team. Next up is a place called vCenter. It's where you can actually log on to the computers and do things and try and fix vulnerabilities and get red team out. And after that, you have iScore, which is where you can see where your points are. You can submit flags. You can put all your documents in there for white team, red team, and green team, which we're going to cover later. And you can also submit things called anomalies, which if any of you have ever heard of a CTF, it's pretty much the same thing. And you're just going to be doing that, so you're not just constantly looking at logs trying to see if anyone's got in. And then this last one is something that the club has set up under our previous name. If you go to this link, you can see a couple of basics of securing machines and stuff like that.
It's currently very much a work in progress.
Yeah, it's very bare. We're going to be adding more by the end of the semester. I'm currently working on a project for one of my classes, getting more Windows stuff up there for all of the recent Windows box editions for every single comp. And hopefully, even if you go there and you don't know much, you can learn a bit and get the ball rolling. So to get started, you need to sign up for Blue Team. You're not going to be signing up for Green Team or Red Team. Red Team is for professionals only. If you're not getting paid thousands of dollars to do this every year, then you're probably not going to be signing up for Red Team. And if you want to do Green Team, if you want to just kind of play around with things and be a normal user for the competition, you can do that. But we personally recommend signing up for Blue Team as the club, which is where you actually get to get on the boxes and you get to try and secure them and you get to find vulnerabilities and kick all of the professional red teamers out. And I believe, does anyone here still need a team? I don't think so. But if anyone is joining up...
They're a red team, so if they ask like them in your team, the answer is don't put them on it.
Yes, red team can ask.
Red team on your team.
They can't do red team things, check board color.
It's true.
Good.
Yeah, and if anyone is joining up on the live stream, just go to the team joining channel on our Discord, and you should be able to find a couple of people who still need teams if you're going to go there. Or anyone who joins the VOD afterwards, if you have an exam or some kind of commitment that you needed to do right now, you can go to that team creation channel under CDC if you have the CDC role, which is going to be very important during the competition. And you can try and look for different team members there. So once you've created a team, it is time to look at the scenario, which the scenario is what you are doing. It is one of the most important documents for this, and you can get there by signing up. Here you can see I'm part of one team, which is Team 1, and if you want to try and get to the docs, you go to this competition information, and then you can hit this link to the blue drive, and it's going to take you to a Google Drive, where you have the scenario, some example documents and intrusion reports, which we're going to talk about a little bit later, as well as a VPN file for if you're not on campus currently and you want to still get into the boxes, or if, I believe even if it's like just not comp day.
It puts you on competition network.
Yeah, it gets you on the actual like competition network so you can SSH into the boxes instead of trying to do it from the web interface. So looking at the scenario here, there are a couple important sections. You can see this nice little table of contents, which is going to be useful to reference every time you want to go back. You have your initial instructions, which I think I've read one or two of these. They're usually pretty good. We always love that white team puts in the effort to try and write these intros for what we're actually doing. I know, so much effort. Once you just kind of skip right past that, you have some of the legal jargon about kind of what words mean, and then you have a couple of example stuffs like network maps for your documentation, and then this is an important bit. Each of your machines is going to have an IP address, and then your team is going to have a network IP space. If you want to find your team's IP space, you're going to go to that iscore.isage.org, and then I believe if you go to dashboard after you log in, I think Trent and I might be kicking each other out. But either way. Yeah, if you go here, you can see our network IP. So it's these first 3 bits is going to be your network, and then this last 0 is going to be replaced by each of the numbers here. So you can see for our www machine, we have the last octet of 10. So if we want to get the IP for that machine on the competition network, we can go here and see it's 64.39.3.10. It's going to be different for each of you. All of these numbers are going to be different for each team. And then you should also be able to go to the host name, which is going to be that www, and then dot your team here, which is going to follow the standard format of team number.isucdc.com. And that is how you can access all of the boxes from each other once you're actually on the CompNet. And past that, we have more information about the boxes themselves. Every single box is going to have a default username and password. We would highly recommend changing this default password before you actually get started and going, because if you don't, I'm pretty sure Red Team's going to get your flags in like 5 to 10 seconds if they're... Yeah, they have automatic scripts that will essentially just log in with these default creds because they're the same every single competition. They are very predictable. They don't have to do any password cracking or anything. So default creds is something that does happen in the wild. It will happen to you. It has happened to me. So make sure you go through and change these on each and every box, as well as some of the services that are running. And later on, you can see that this has an operating system. According to the rules, you're not allowed to upgrade this. So you can't bump this up to an Ubuntu 2022. It has to say a 20.04, but you can change some of the updates and update some of the packages, which might come into play later, especially if you look at the CDC help site. And then it has information about what it actually does and a couple of qualifications, like it must be domain joined to the Active Directory. So that way it has to be able to talk to that Active Directory server, which is going to allow Active Directory users to authenticate to it, as well as possibly DNS if you have things set up properly like that. So when you do go to www.teamwhatever.isucdc.com, it will redirect to the IP and you will still be able to get there. And then a couple of more important notes. If you want to get to the code, if you want to look at that, try and find some vulnerabilities in there. It's in that /frontend directory. If you remember from 230 or 252 how to get there, you can use that. And then you can see it's running a PHP server, and your team may change the code. However, there are a couple required things, and you need to pay attention to this. You need to read the scenario docs to know if you can change something, if you can't change something. And if there's something on the box that's not in the scenario, you can probably get rid of it. I'm pretty sure this isn't going to talk about a script that, I don't know, it could be like backdoor.exe, and if Red Team happens to find it, they can just log onto your computer if they want to without credentials. Stuff like that will appear on the boxes sometimes, and because you can see on the scenario doc here, it does not require that backdoor.exe to be open on any ports or to be running at all. You can just kind of safely remove it. And if you're not sure if it's technically required for this scenario, just hit up White Team. They're usually pretty good at responding. But first, check the scenario doc, because as any teacher will tell you, the documentation, the stuff they put for you, is where you should reference first. So past that, we're going to see that for each and every one of these machines, there's some specific information, even some weird stuff like Alma Linux. Not all of these are just Ubuntu and Windows 10 boxes. Sometimes you'll get some fun stuff here, as well as some very specific requirements. This might be the longest required access listing I've seen for a box so far. Past that, you have these for all these different boxes. I'm just going to scroll right past here. And the next thing that your team will actually need to do, you need to plant flags. So for the two types of flags, you got these blue flags here, which are placed by you onto your server. You need to do this before comp day, or else you're going to get disqualified. And then red flags are planted by red team, and it basically shows it's like, hey, I got in, I can write to this, I can do this, and that way you can try and track their stuff and see where the flag was planted and possibly use that in the logs further on. And then more specifics about it, stuff like flags in the etc directory, which is supposed to be kind of root level access, has this specific read, write, read, which if you don't know, you can run, I believe it's chmod 644 and then the file name to be able to put those correct permissions on it. Yeah, a couple other specific rules. Don't be migrating any of your systems. You have to actually use the systems that were provided. You can't just like take the script that was running on one of them, start up your own thing, and then put it on there, because it wouldn't really be that much fun. And the script might not work like it's intended to. Whether that's for the good or the bad for vulnerabilities. As well as you're usually going to get a couple of these roles for things. So each user won't require domain admin access where they can add users and add boxes and basically do whatever they want on the network. Only some users are supposed to do that. And the users that can do pretty much anything to your boxes they want, those are usually going to be what we call TSI users, which means team-specific information. So they're going to have a password, and inside of iScore again, which is going to be your go-to during comp day, if you go to this team-specific information tab, you have all of these passwords. Now, I'm on a test team, so I don't really mind, but I can just kind of like leak here. These passwords aren't strong, but at the very least, they are unique to each team, so that whenever another team gets hacked, your passwords don't get leaked.
What's the current red team time to crack all of them if they're using just like basic shot? Yeah.
Make sure they're stored in something good.
Yes, think about, so one of the things is think about the hashing algorithms you use on your hash passwords and try not to get the hashes leaked either, because they are designed to be short enough that red team can crack them relatively easily if they get a hold of them. There was last comp, I think there's a few algorithms that are really hard and make it harder for them to get all of them and not really feasible to crack.
Like bcrypt or Argon, something like that. Bcrypt with a high work factor. Don't do like bcrypt with like 2. That is not going to save you.
Yeah, but there are.
So what, you guys have like really beefy computers that you use?
There's a red teamer who has a 4090.
Yeah.
It also doesn't take.
It just brings that to the competition.
No, it's just added value. Yeah.
It's all for them. So of note, if you go down to the next one,
Yep.
they're the same format of certain type of characters, numbers, certain type of characters.
Which also dramatically.
Yeah, so that dramatically reduces.
And the reason why we do that is because in the real world, users are picking password summer 2024. Users actually pick that, and they're really easy to brute force.
And that's basically the right thing.
I would note they're also hard enough that they're probably not going to brute force them very well without the hatches.
Yes, yeah, like there's no, like,
Yeah.
those are strong with, like, they're not going to be able to brute force it, but if they get your hashes, you're usually toast.
Yeah. That's one important note to think about.
Especially if they get your 80 hashes, that's, because there's 80 box in this scenario, affect your 80 box, because if they're able to dump hash off of that, not good.
Almost immediate, yeah.
I also just posted a link in the Discord for anyone who needs to join online, so that way they can get to the stream. Let's see. So yeah, that's all the TSI passwords. And they also have birthdays, which can be used if green team hits you up.
Supposedly, we might be having phones this competition. If we have phones this competition,
It depends if someone reconfigures all the phones to use DHCP.
I can do
Someone
it.
does that?
I can do it.
No,
I can
we
help.
I'll
just get paid without phones.
We just need to reconfigure all of them.
Yeah, I can do that.
And we built the network.
If you have phones, theoretically, if green team has issues when they are doing checks, they are supposed to call.
Yeah.
Green team is supposed to call you a problem. For example, if they fail a password, if they try to log in and they can't because they fail a password, or they're supposed to have access, like a user's supposed to have pseudo access to something and they don't. What they're supposed to do is call your team, and then that date of birth would be used to authenticate because that green team can view it while red team cannot view the date of birth of that person.
And the thing is, green people will not volunteer information. You
Yes,
must ask.
yes, you have to ask for it. But that's a way to authenticate the person who's calling is green team and not red team. And that's you like don't be like there have been teams before that have included that alongside other information, and when their box gets compromised, it also compromises the names and the TSI, but like the date of birth.
If people put an AD and then their AD gets popped.
Yes.
But then the red team doesn't need to call you.
And also those dates are pertinent, so even if those get lost,
Mm-hmm.
you can change the password, the births don't change, so.
Could you pick a different day for me?
Yeah, and it's a very realistic thing. People talk about two-factor all the time, something you know and something you have. So something you know is going to be your password, or something you have is going to be your password, even if that's given to you. That's something you can use to authenticate. But if someone else happens to get your password, then something you and ideally only you should know. Of course, a lot of people know your birthday, but stuff like SSNs or all the security questions that they ask you can be something you know to make sure that they can know that it's you and not just using your password. Let's see. So further on in the scenario doc, of course, yeah, administrator accounts has to be able to be an administrator. If you just have administrators that they can like look at the front end and be pretty, that's not really going to work. Green team is going to check and make sure that administrators can create users, can join boxes, can change privileges, stuff like that. And if you don't have that, then you're going to lose points on the green team checks. And then also, really important, document things. If you fix a vulnerability, that's going to go into your white team docs. After you figure out how the website works, that has to go into your green team docs because those docs are going to be handed off to the respected teams. So like green team, it's going to be, hey, how do I log into this service? Is there anything special I need to take care of? Oh, the certs are expired and I get this weird page and it's very scary. How do I navigate from there? And it's just like hitting the advanced options and going through the page, stuff like that is going to show up in your green team docs. That's really important to put in there, and then you'll get graded for each of those. And then white team is also going to look and go like, hey, how do you have your network set up? What vulnerabilities did you find? Did you put any effort into this and try and like find vulnerabilities or change default creds or stuff like that? And you can get points for that in the documentation as well. And then, yeah, you can also deploy your own stuff. We always love to do a pfSense box. pfSense is a firewall box, and it can essentially limit the ports that red team can access on your machines. It can also obfuscate and kind of hide some things. And we also love to put something called a parrot or a Kali box on internal and or external. So that way we can try and hack our own machines, see what kind of vulnerabilities we can find there that we can't just find on the machine itself. And it also allows us to access web browsers if there's not a great like Ubuntu desktop type thing, or change the firewall itself, and it just acts as kind of a utility machine that we have. Other than that, DNS records are managed in iScore. If you go to this DNS records thing, if you create a parrot box or a pfSense box, I guess not a pfSense box, but like a parrot box, and you wanted to actually put it in the DNS records, you can create a new one here, just put the host name here, and then you can put a value, which is that last octet, that last little bit of the IP that you saw earlier in the record, or you can even double check here what it is. And then, wouldn't recommend it, but you can technically edit these and delete these if you want.
If you change them, please note these DNS records, the service checker actually uses these DNS records, so they do need to exist. So for example, if www was on .10 and you decide to change it to .11, you will need to update this DNS record so the service checker will work.
Or also just be static zeros.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. That's the other option, get no points.
Yeah,
I can't recommend that one though.
Uptime is a really, really big thing for points. Mostly it's going to be checking, can a user SSH into the box using secure shell to try and get on and manage things? Can they RDP into the Windows box, which is the same thing, but for Windows? Is the website up? Can you hit it? Do you get any information? Is the database up? Can you hit it? Can you get any information? Stuff like that goes into your usability score, and that provides a massive amount of points. Past that, even further, we have, the competition rules, the scoring guide, which we're going to look at in a minute, and a couple other requirements. Yeah, scenario document is always going to trump the competition rules. Scenario document comes first. Like, okay, I guess white team comes first, scenario document comes second. But scenario document is definitely up there. And you're going to have a couple of requirements for the services. If you're having real trouble, you can either use the Discord, which we're going to be putting in our Discord for the CDC and ISH specifically. Or you can hit up this email, cdc_support. I know it's a bit hidden, at iastate.edu, and you'll be able to get to a white team member there. And let's see, as for getting started, read the document, read the scoring guide, read the competition rules, which I think we're going to cover a little bit later, and basic setting up a server and networking, remote setup guide. Cool. Everything we're going to be covering here. So the scoring guide. When I talked about documentation and how amazing uptime was, you can see documentation, 10% of the overall score, which is going to be both green team and white team. So if you decide not to do that, that could majorly impact your final score at the very end. And then during the competition, we're going to have 2 or 3 intrusion reports, which is essentially, did you see red team get in? How did they get in? How did they take the flags? What vulnerabilities did they use? Did they privilege escalate? Anything like that. Then you have to provide screenshots of what happened in the logs and why that makes you think they got in that way. And I believe red team will even double check you on that because, of course, they know how they got in. They can look at the intrusion report and go like yes or no. On top of that, your red team evaluation score. If you are super, super mean to red team and you just kind of like ban every single IP and you're kind of, I guess, like unfair and make the competition not very fun, you're going to get a pretty low red team score. Be cool about it, take appropriate measures, only like temporarily ban IPs, stuff like that. Don't go too far with anything and you'll probably get an okay red team score.
I can add a little bit to that.
Mm-hmm.
The best way to really annoy red team is either whack-a-mole them, like constantly disconnect them,
Yep.
or say really mean things to them. They get the turkeys. So.
Oh yeah, I guess that is something that's explicitly in the rules that you should know. If red team gets in your box, if they are immediately in, you can kill their sessions while you're working on a fix short term, but the long-term fix cannot be sitting there killing their sessions.
Yes.
They get really mad.
Yes, it's also, I think it's literally against the rules.
It is a against the rules. Well.
To repeatedly kill their sessions as your main defense tactic is against the rules. Doing it short term for like say 10 minutes while you're implementing a fix is not.
Yeah, so that'll be fine. But if you're doing it for like 2 hours, that's how red team gets mad.
Yes.
And the reason for that is it's not feasible to do in like a corporate network.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just hire, one person per system.
Professional boxing.
I would totally do that.
Yeah, so if you don't know, whack-a-mole is essentially if you see someone connect to your machine, you're going to have things like SSH logs, and you essentially go, oh, that IP is not allowed to connect anymore, which I've definitely seen teams do. Anytime someone other than a team member SSH is in, they whack-a-mole it, which, by the way, not a great idea either, because it's really going to hurt your green team points, because users actually need to use the machine. It's a really, really secure computer. If nobody can access it and it doesn't do anything and it doesn't communicate with anything and it doesn't exist, but that's not really what we use in the real world. People need to access it. People need to do things. You need to have people with administrative access to change things. So how do we make sure that the people with administrative access are the only ones with administrative access? Stuff like that. On top of that, of course, your flags. Got to try and keep things secure. If they take your red team or your blue team flag, that's going to be up to 20% of your score, and each flag is going to be worth 100 points, or at least however that balances out across the flags. But during your intrusion report and for each flag, if you find out how they got in and you have a good explanation of how the hack worked, how you know that it worked that way, and how you can see that, you can get up to 50% of your points back. which can be a major game changer, even if you lose every single one of your flags. I know we've had a competition where we lost every single one of our flags, still ended up in the top 3 just because of documentation and getting those flags back, stuff like that.
Also part of that, like in the real world, there's a big emphasis on response to threats. Like you can't secure everything completely. There will be, attackers that get in, and it's more about detecting attacks, detecting intrusions, and then having a good response plan in place. Especially with malware and stuff. Like when you get into bigger networks, actually in the industry, that's generally more the approach taken. So that's why the internet backup is so important.
Yeah.
That stuff is so important.
Because of course you are blue team, which if you don't know in the real world, blue team is the people who monitor logs and kick malicious people out of the systems and find if someone's trying to actively use a vulnerability against them and exploiting their systems. And they're going to patch that, and they're going to fix that, and they're going to secure the system. So it's not only preventative, but it is also that response portion. On top of that, as I talked about earlier, green team usability. Yeah, you could have things that just don't work and no one can access your site, but one, that's not fun for red team, it's not fun for blue team really, and green team's not going to like that too much either. So you're going to lose a ton of points for that, and green team is a major portion of this. Make sure your website works, make sure any of the changes you make isn't going to brick anything, and everything works as expected, as explained in the scenario doc, and that's going to be 20% of your score there. And then you're also going to have anomalies. No one just sits there looking at logs all day. Okay, I guess someone probably does, but not many people. Most of the time the company wants you to be doing real work, which is what the anomalies are supposed to be. It's mostly CTF stuff. It's not going to be like memos like some other competitions are. It is a lot of, hey, how do I hash this password? Hey, how do I use this Metasploit module? Hey, can you hack into the system for me? Red team likes to do a lot of fun stuff with the anomalies. Don't help them out too much though. And you can also answer stuff like, what are the 3 parts of CIA? Who made RSA? And how does it work? Or even write a report on a DEF CON talk, stuff like that too. All of this is part of 15% of your overall score, and it's probably my favorite part of the competition at the end of the day, aside from trying to protect the boxes at the beginning. So that is all the scores, and that is generally everything here. Yeah. Oh, cool, yeah. So here is kind of what the anomaly page looks like. You'll get an anomaly here. Make sure to be there in the morning because you're going to get a heartbeat anomaly, which is going to be a required anomaly. You're going to get a couple like that. You're going to have stuff like firing someone, where you have to try and remove someone from the database. All of those are kind of required anomalies, so you need to do it to keep your team in the competition. So looking at this anomaly here, we have something with a description, possible points, release time, and expiration time, and a name. And once you accept it, you have the submission thing. And following directions here, we can say hello and submit it. And sometimes this will be in different formats. It'll say what kind of format it wants. If it doesn't have use format CDC, it's going to be in text form, or it's going to be kind of more of an essay answer. But sometimes it'll say the flag is going to be in format, here, let's just open this here, in format CDC, and then with brackets. And this is going to be the flag information that you find here. And that is actually going to be found in the challenge itself. And once you do that, you might get some white team comments on if there was something wrong. Okay, yeah. Control F5 then? No, okay, whatever.
What's the score?
Oh, how do I do that?
So that's important. Sometimes anomalies will be graded, but not until everyone's done and the score release will actually see the final score.
Yes. Because you don't want white team to give away whether you have the right answer in case you spill the beans or someone else finds out. So while that answer is getting released, a couple other panes that we haven't really talked about. This usability pane, I believe is going to be where all of the green team checks are, and you can see what comments they had on whether it was you can't access this page, or I couldn't log into this, stuff like that. Happens all the time. Just something that does. Team information, you can change your name or your organization or logo or anything like that as needed. And when I talk about planting those blue flags, this is where you download them. Go to the download flags page, download the flags, use the VPN to get onto the CompNet, and then you can use something like SCP or, I don't know. Yeah, copy paste, whatever, to try and get it into the flag file. And then all the way at the bottom, you can see your score. So how much service uptime, blue flags, red flags, all of that stuff you're getting. And at the very last, you have your scoreboard. Actually, here we go, service status. This is one that I know I check a lot. This is to make sure that your uptime is actually there. So can they SSH in? Is HTTP open? Stuff like that. And this is where you can check if the checker is actually running properly and working. Yes.
On your team,
Yep.
if you click the on-demand service scan, if you're setting up a box and want to scan it now, you can click that.
Yep.
Saves waiting 5 minutes.
Yeah, so these happen every 5 minutes. So they're not instant. It won't be as soon as you do it. So you do have to click that button occasionally.
Option will not be that once the attack phase starts, but up until the attack phase, you click that button.
Yeah, that's true. It's only for setup. And then you can also see the error that it gets. So authentication failed, probably because we don't have anything joined to the AD on this test team.
They're actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right.
We just don't use it.
Oh, got it. Okay, yeah. So yeah, if you try to log in as a user that doesn't exist, you'll get authentication failed. Maybe you'll see something like couldn't access box whatever on port whatever, and it's probably a networking issue. So you can troubleshoot here using the errors that the machine actually got. And then you can even see the URL it's using and the port it's trying to use. So you can't just put your web server up on port like, I don't know, 12345 or something like that. It's got to be using the normal web server port for the checker. Yes?
With the authentication failure, I highly suggest looking at your log file to see who they're trying to SSH into, because I put in the wrong password for one of the accounts, and it would occasionally be green, occasionally be red.
Yeah, we've definitely done that too. Yeah, so if that wasn't clear on here, you basically said check your SSH logs because it'll say who tried to log in at that time, and then you can see if possibly you need to reset their password if you typed it in wrong, because on some comps it can be a lot of passwords to type in correctly. Let's see, other than that, do we have the score released?
Yeah.
Cool. Let me see, graded. And yeah, so now it actually turns back blue now that the score has been fully released. And you can see a little comment here and who commented it when. So if you have any feedback for the anomaly itself, whether it was like, it's not quite what we were looking for, I believe you can add comments. And if you have any problems with that, you can always just talk to White Team. Sometimes things happen, or it's like, oh, that link is dead. If you try to put a pastebin link in for all of the memes that we send at the end of the competition, you can just talk to White Team and try and get that fixed, things like that.
My suggestion is don't use comments. If you guys have a problem, go up top to White Team.
Yes.
Those comments may or may not be read. White Team is very busy.
Yeah. Yeah, White Team is very, very busy. And for everyone that's going to be in person, White Team is over by the electrical engineering stuff, where all the oscilloscopes and everything like that are. They're behind those benches, and you'll also be able to tell them by the yellow polo shirts that they're wearing. Yeah. Yeah, so if they're not wearing a yellow polo shirt, don't give them your password. That would be a high recommendation for me.
Going to find one red teamer is going to find like the storage, and they're going to put on a yellow polo.
Yeah.
shirt.
I think it's like.
No, they won't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's it.
We'll ask you about, hey, can you give me your flags? I'll play them for you. Yes, that happened in an ITO competition. Yes, blue team fell for it. It was hilarious.
Yep. Oh, and also,
But red team won't talk to you before the comp, because I do believe that that's against the rules. They're not allowed to talk to you before the competition actually starts. I think. Like,
Doc, did I say that over slash rules?
Yeah, so if you go to iscore.isaege.org, I would also not recommend that, just in case. A fellow friend of ours has that all set up. If you want to play with it, though, I would highly recommend it. Yeah. So it's just,
gives you the creds.
yeah, it's another iScore page. If you want to log in, you can. You got your creds there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can put a nice little password in, try some SQL injection, little password. You can just log in, give them our creds. It'll fail every time, but now you can see we're back here. Okay, so for getting on the actual boxes, you have to go to that vcenter.isage.org, ISEAGE.org. Make sure to spell it right. And then you can either, I don't think you can launch the remote console. That doesn't work because of some certain write stuff. It's fine. So you launch the web console, or if you're on the VPN, you can SSH into it. So here we have our private key for SSHing, if any of you want to SSH in on the CompNet. So here, let's just do a quick one. Are you not working? There we go. Okay.
You just take a picture of that.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, even if you are, it is our empty key.
yeah. That's not a real thing, that's just testing.
Full intention of noting that this is a test key. It's not there.
Oh, is it not?
I don't think, right?
Yeah.
The code?
Yeah.
No,
It's just in CD front
I
end.
have to take the rock in.
Oh, nice.
It's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong.
Nice.
Yeah, here.
There's definitely
Oh, okay.
That's true of all code ever created.
So you can kind of see on here, you can run whatever commands you want. This is just a normal shell. Like if you were to go onto a desktop and start typing things on your computer, that would be the same thing here. And you can see I have not been typing anything. My hands have been away from the keyboard, yet characters have still appeared. That is because anyone from your team can type and do other commands, and you'll get this little header up here saying that there are other people on the console. Just be wary of who's typing what, because sometimes if two people are typing at the same time, the characters will just interlace with each other because it just takes it one character at a time.
Like the mouse.
Oh yeah, the mouse gets even weirder. It's really annoying sometimes. That's why some of these even serverless boxes are nice. So yeah, and that is how you access that. And you can even see if we want to hop on. Yeah, look at that. All the passwords.
That's
Actually, hopefully not any passwords.
Of note, this came up in the last competition. There may be users added, like for example, Scrat. You don't need to
Yes.
keep users unless they're explicitly in the scenario.
Hmm.
so
I-
can you get rid of the boot user?
Please remove those, or else let's see, we'll find them if we'll lose them.
At the minimum, change the password.
Yes.
And also, when you're doing that, just kind of think about if it has something to do with Ice Age, the movie, or hacking, then it's probably malicious. But you'll see there's a lot of users on here that we're not going to delete because Linux has a lot of users that it uses for random stuff.
Another good way to look is compare how this is no login
Yeah.
or bin false, which do not allow logins, versus
Mhm.
bin bash.
Yes.
Also, sometimes white team, when they build the boxes, they'll set shells for the system boxes.
Yep.
You should probably change those back to no login.
Yes. Yeah.
Those are good ideas.
Hmm. Okay. So yeah, it's not just headless Windows boxes or headless Linux boxes. You can also get nice little Windows boxes. So here's our Active Directory. Important note, to do this Control-Delete, you can't just type it. That's why we have the Send Control-Delete button. And that does that there. I'm assuming the password is CDC. Yeah. As you can see, default creds, same every single time. Really easy to guess. And on Active Directory, you're going to have the server manager. One of the projects, or the project for one of my classes, is to essentially go, hey, what's up with Active Directory? How do we figure this out? How does it work? And how do we secure it? So look forward to that by the end of the semester. It is not done yet, and there's a lot to go. It also has shifted a lot away from deploying Active Directory because it seems like White Team has that down now to trying to secure it and what White Team can do to mess it up, because there's a lot of things on Active Directory you can do to mess it up. And once you get into Active Directory, that is not quite a game over, but it's very close. So yeah, as you can see on here, I have a mouse. I can click buttons. I can do things like that. Works on graphical user interfaces as well as have this mode, just typing things. And then you can also see, I believe Active Directory has no DNS records. Oh, okay. So yeah, DNS is all through Ice Age then.
No.
No?
Go to your search and then go to DNS. So like down. It's in Windows. The DNS is a different app.
Oh wait, yeah, that's right, because it's this, and then it's
Down.
Down.
further.
Yeah, sorted alphabetically.
Right there.
DNS. There we go. Yeah. So you can see we're on team1.isu.cdc.com. And if we go in here, there's some of our boxes.
So there've been a couple that have been joined.
Well, DB is there at least.
Those are just Windows boxes. I don't think
So then, okay, yeah.
But the Linux ones are connected. Like
Yes.
This should be pre-joined to the main.
yeah.
To check if boxes are joined,
It's
go to go to Active Directory users and computers, and this is where you can see all of the users and computers for the Active Directory, believe it or not. So under here, if you go to users, you can see there's going to be a lot of extra users, just like on Linux. A lot of these are actually just security groups that have specific permissions for trying to assign users permissions. But maybe this user shouldn't be there. I don't know. We'll see. Scrat likes to create users on a lot of different machines. You're probably going to find them everywhere. But you can create users using this button. That's going to be really important. You need to do that. And then you can put first name, last name. User logon name is going to be in your...
First dot last.
Yeah, it's usually first dot last. And then you can also find it in this PDF. Or this... Okay. Oh, I guess there's no non-TSI users.
Yeah, that's only three.
Sometimes you'll get...
You can cover, you can just sign up for an account. So there's infinite non-PSI.
That's true. Yeah, sometimes there will be users that have extra roles, and then they'll have a plain text password here instead of saying TSI. Those passwords are the same for every single team. If they get one of those passwords, they can use it everywhere else. So when you're making a password, you can see the username here, or it's also in your TSI section. Yep, you got the username here. And then you can put the password from there. And so it'll usually be like first dot last, and then password, which I actually don't know if this will work. I don't know if it accepts password. And then make sure to unclick this. You do not want the user to change the password at net login, just in case, because these are supposed to be the same, and you can manually change it later if need be.
Also, if you're logging that on Xbox, you'll just won't work.
Yes. I ran into that while making a lab. So now you can see this user. You can do a bunch of stuff with it. If you want to learn more about Windows, you can look into it. You can play around with this. It's kind of great because you get a free lab for a couple of weeks leading up to every single CDC, where you have an Active Directory, a couple of boxes. You can play around with stuff, get to test things. Even if you don't make it secure, you can learn a lot. Oh yeah. One important thing on here that you really want to do before you touch any machines or turn them on or do anything with them is to go to this tab here. It says snapshots, and you want to take a snapshot, and you can rename it here, especially if you're about to do something that might screw something up. You can just name it like removing passwords from database or something like that. And once you create the snapshot, you can wait a bit, and eventually it'll show up here, and you can always revert back to it in case you can't log onto your box or the site's completely broken. You have no idea what's going on because we've all been there.
Isn't it not during the competition?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That permission may or may not be pulled during the comp. That is a decision that does not even out before comp time. You just might be somewhere at 8 a.m. or it might not.
Don't expect to have it during competition.
Yes.
That's for set.
And also, if you have it during the competition, and you use it, and you delete user data like the green team put, now you're hurting your usability.
Yep.
If there is like a service for backing up systems or something, pretty sure it's gonna be disabled.
Yeah.
I don't know about this count, but you know,
Mhm.
you never know.
Yeah, most of the backup and nice to haves for, oh wow, I just screwed everything up. It gets disabled during comp time, so try not to do anything too crazy during comp and try to do most of it before 8 a.m. on Saturday. That's usually ideal. But, you know, sometimes you don't have time and you're doing everything up until 2 a.m. on Friday and then you have to get there at 8 a.m. on Saturday. It happens.
You also, I'm not saying to go do this, but if you really feel like you're going to do something on competition day that might really break something, there is always ISU you can talk to. You might get a point deduction if you have to revert or something, but they were probably more than willing to take a snapshot really fast. If they're not terribly busy, take a snapshot really fast. You can try it, and if you do need to revert, take a small point loss, even if you don't have the ability to do that personally. If you give them good reasoning behind it.
At the end of the day, it's more fun for everyone to have functioning machines.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can also see here in the computer section, we have all our computers joined. So for this comp, we have a database, file server, a couple of hosts, a sites thing, and www. Is that all? Okay, cool. Yeah, and then plus our Active Directory itself, which Active Directory does not need to be joined to Active Directory.
Which is,
Oh, okay, yeah, that's true. But isn't it built in?
They have domain controllers.
Yeah, because it's the
One more down.
Oh, yeah. There we go.
yeah, 'cause it's a special type of computer.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Other than that, any questions from anyone about how things work, things to do before setup, anything like that?
Did you show the flags?
I didn't plant one.
Yeah.
I did.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Alright,
Capture how
Okay, yeah.
how to recover it.
So let's go over to our dashboard. Oh no, our Active Directory flag is gone. So what are we going to do about it? Well, let's go into Active Directory and we can see, we can double check. If you want to know where the flag is, you can see it's in Windows and then,
That's the new back. The new one was there.
yeah, it was blue flag. Oh. Do you want to do,
That one got captured.
Yeah, that one's officially let's just capture.
Yeah.
I didn't plant it.
Yeah.
oh, got it,
But
okay.
if it's so if you have a so the really important thing here with flags is you're going to lose flags. You're going to lose flags. Whether you no matter how hard you try, you're probably gonna lose flags. So you're probably not gonna find every vulnerability, and red team has told every vulnerability. So you're gonna probably get something compromised. It happens. You can get half of your points back by giving an accurate, if you can describe how your flag is taken, you can get half of the points back for that flag. So that is a very important thing to know and understand. So to do that is when you go into that I-square menu, you notice that
Yes.
red flag. You can click on that, it brings you to this menu, and this is where you submit that description about the earn back. Of note, I guess I'm not on red team, but I have had general success with these being relatively short. You don't have to go super in depth with these flag earn backs. We are pretty sure that they got in this way. Here's what we think happened. We're pretty sure that they got in this way. Here's the steps they took. And if they escalated or something, here's what they did to escalate. So on and so forth. And then at other points in time, you'll have what are called intrusion reports that you need to fill out. Those you should put in more detail of, okay, here's the log data that we have, and here's how we know they did this thing, here's what they did when they got in, here's what we did to fix this so that they don't keep getting At least that's
Yeah, so important things for earn backs. So when I was grading them when I was on staff, it is who and how. You need to answer both questions correctly. You know, if you like, depending on your answer. So I've seen, for example, where red teams capture notes, red team. So when I grade them, red team says this is how we got it. Then I have your answer. And if red team says I use default threads, and then you give me this like 1,000-long word of like they did this really complicated thing, you're probably gonna get 0 because that's not how they got in. Like if they use default creds, own up to it because you will get the points back.
true. You will get, if they get in with default creds, you will get 50% of points back. I think I've actually written before 2 words, default creds, and gotten 50%.
And you'll get, if that's how you got in, full points. But if you give me this big long essay, there's like it have to be these 10 steps, and it's just default creds. That's 0.
Yeah.
Yep. And I know Windows event.
How specific would you be traditionally looking for?
So it really depends on how they got
Yes.
it. So like if red team did say, okay, so like, oh yeah, so like we used the, command injection on the site and then it got in this way, then I might expect that detail, but like usually at that point, if it's multi-step, I want to know, did you get the who correct? If it's default credits, I expect you to tell me that it's default credits.
Yeah, it doesn't always have to be incredibly specific. It just, you need to show that you have an understanding of roughly what happened.
Yeah, like if you show an understanding of how it happened and who did it, you'll get points. If you show that you don't know, then that's how you lose points. So that's where like good logging comes in.
And if you really don't know, please don't just write a bunch of random stuff and hope it's gonna pass, because red team puts right on there what they did. So
Yeah, like when they recreate it, we can read red team's capture notes. Like it's very obvious. Also, when you're having intrusion reports, make sure you include flags, because when we grade intrusion reports, we have a list of when your flags were taken. So if you lost a flag like 30 minutes before the intrusion report is due and it's not in there, that's going to hurt you.
I would also note there are times where if you get really unlucky, we have had this happen before, where you've had your flag taken minutes, like actual minutes before an intrusion report. Talk with white team.
I usually don't dock because it gives timestamps.
Yeah. Okay.
If it's like anything under 10 minutes, I get
Okay.
I would sure do the same thing. When I'm grading those, I'll try to be nice.
Yeah.
Like, if it's like 15 minutes, but if like I support that 30 minutes, an hour before the intrusion report is due, you better have, especially if it's like it happened right as the last one was due. You had this all this 2 hours to write something up. I expect them to do it.
Don't be afraid to talk to people with the competition.
scary.
People are more than willing to. You're here to learn. You're here to get better at things. They want to help.
Yeah. This isn't for thousands of dollars. This is for fun. If you're not having fun, whatever.
Go eat a dog cake.
True.
True.
Yeah, get dog cakes, pancakes that what do I want to call, main guy in cybersecurity Iowa State makes. Really good. And then usually walking tacos for lunch. Tasty food at the event. Hard to go wrong.
Julie's sometimes from Third Dog.
Oh, true.
We do like that.
Julie's a little boy.
Yeah.
Oh.
Tragic.
And then sometimes corporations are going to be there with snacks.
Sisters. Not that I have been told.
Okay.
Doesn't mean no.
That's true. True statement.
And real quick, if you're scared of Windows logging, as a lot of people are, the first place to look is this event viewer place. And you're just going to want to go to Windows logs and security. This is an amazing place to start, because you're going to see every time people log on and log off and different things. It's still a hassle to look through, especially if you're trying to find something like, I don't know, an NTLM downgrade attack, where it's a specific field in one of the logins that you have to try and sift through, but you'll get there eventually. And if you want to learn a little bit, you can also create custom filters. You can do PowerShell or CMD to try and filter it down and make it a little bit easier to read. And that can be some great experience for possible what they call DFIR later on, or digital forensics and incident response, which is the technical term that people often use for blue teaming.
I will will say, like in the real world, I've done security op before. Being able to learn how to sift through these logs and find events is very important. Because like when you go into the real world, almost every place is a Microsoft shop. Almost every company has an AD server, and everything goes through it. So building these skills now, knowing how to find events and event viewer is very important. Really helpful.
And ideally, at some point, you're going to have a Splunk server or some kind of Elasticsearch, which is going to be real nice, but I would not worry about it until you are just like chilling and you want to have fun and you want to set up some what they call log aggregation, which can make it so much easier to go through Windows logs and Linux logs and all the different places you can look. Let's see. Other than that, any more questions? Cool. I don't think so. Either way, that's also time. Sorry. Okay.
Don't sabotage other teams.
Oh yeah, don't.
It doesn't say you get quite team angry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's always good ban.
There's there's a bunch of really common things that you can do for general security practices in Linux. For example, can you hop on like I think www has it like netstat -tulpn or just look at all of the ports that are actively listening. Sudo netstat tulpn.
Your risk is net network.
Yeah, just netstat will work.
Type.
Oh, on that
There we
note, also journal CTL will save your life.
Yeah, knowing how to do Linux logs would be helpful.
It's a master log.
And if you're curious, T is for TCP, U is for UDP, L is for listening, P is for process, yes. And then N is for putting everything in numerical.
Yep. Okay.
So, yeah. Netstat is not default installed on a lot of systems. A lot of systems you're going to use will have it, but technically a fresh install doesn't always have it.
It's not hard to install. It
It's
tells
not.
you how to install it.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, White Team has a lot of fun with the boxes sometimes. Sudo apt update and sudo apt upgrade, another great step to go for. It doesn't always work. Sometimes there are things with apt like
Post 2 is a good example. Just go to there's a lot of different things that you can do to find things that are actively running. So for example, this is a netstat is a really good tool because, for example, we can see that there was something listening on port 1337 and 1338, both with Python 3.
I didn't see that.
That I'm feeling, wild guess, there's probably on all Linux things that are running on those ports.
Just maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
oh yeah,
Could be.
And because it gives things like your PID and things, you can go use PS or use HTOP or something to go find where that process is running from and how it's running to understand what it's doing and then see if it is malicious and when it's running on that port. So there's a bunch of look for active running processes is always my first go-to when looking for things on a system.
yeah. And numbers and hex to look for, because a lot of hackers have fun things that they just like to put in. 1337 is leet. It's very common in anything. 4444 is a common in Metasploit. They often use that port. Dead beef, DEADBEEF, is a common hex. It's not necessarily a number, but it's kind of a number in the tech world. Coffee, there's a lot of different things that you can kind of see. There's a lot of words and references and things like that that you'll find in malware or anything like that here. And then if you want to do this on Windows, there is actually a Windows equivalent. If you go to CMD, which I'm pretty sure is active. Yes, it is netstat. It's not Tulpin. It is ABNO, or at least that's the one I like.
It's also on BSD, but also BSD's flags are also different.
True. And then if you're not sure what the flags are, the best thing to do is netstat, and then and then either H or tac help. net stat. There we go. Gives you all the flags so you can learn more. Or if you are on Linux, man, and then any command. And then you can just go like down and it'll tell you literally everything you would ever need to know about this. And then you can just hit Q to exit. Another helpful tool, grep. If you have some text, so if I if I just like cat Etsy password, you can do pipe, which is shift and then backslash. That's what we call the pipe. And then you can run grep and then any string. So if I wanted to check if there was a scrat on this machine, I can just do that and it'll automatically pop up there. Or I can check for like if there's a SQL user or something on this box, which there isn't, and it just won't show up. Or anyone, this is actually really common with bin bash. And that's everyone that can log in on the system. So there's a lot of really, really useful tools that as you get more and more into things, you're going to learn about these. You're going to learn about these little tricks. You're going to learn a lot about this in 230 and 231, and also just doing more CDCs, playing around, asking questions. So this is a lot of fun. We love doing this 3 times a year, and can't wait to see everyone competition day.
Tomorrow at some point, tomorrow at noon, you can go into the TLA and like bring in a table and sit down and work with your team there, and they'll have like switches there, so you can also plug your laptop in and get right on the network, because this can be a bit of a pain to use, being very honest. I'm going to do VMs this way. I like to go and use VPN or get on the network, and then I can like normal SSH from my command line. And you can do that same thing by plugging into these Ethernet switches tomorrow, starting all after all.
Is the VPN working?
Yes, the VPN is. You need to add. I had to add one thing about certificates.
Yeah.
I can find that, but generally speaking, yes.
It depends on like what version your OpenVPN.
Generally speaking, yes.
And we will be there to help tomorrow.
Not many, I just have an in-person lead.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Were there any questions in YouTube? Was anyone watching the YouTube?
I don't think there's anyone in the chat. We have 7 views though, which is pretty cool.
Hey, there was one watching. Yeah, no.
Okay, cool. No worries.
Want to check that real fast?
Yeah, so we're going to be here Friday night to help set up. Cabinet members are going to be there. If you guys need help with anything, we'll be there to help. So have fun.